It's not tonight. So we can all be quiet and peaceable and listen to the music.
It's time to turn off that, and it's time to turn up the volume and listen to Auto Dealer Live.
Repeat after me.
Auto Dealer Live.
How you doing today? This is Dave Villa, and you're listening to Auto Dealer Live. We have a great show for you today. Back by popular demand, we actually had such an overwhelming response last week. We had, if you remember correctly, we had Alan Ram, the president of Proactive Training Solutions. Alan did an amazing job, Martin, last week.
Yes, he did.
It was unbelievable. Just breaking down the auto industry and his experiences, his vast knowledge. I was impressed by it. I've gotten to know his team a little more, and let me tell you something. Stand up, people. One of the best content trainers that I've ever had the privilege of talking to. Guy knows what he's talking about. Extremely talented. He's going to be with us today. He has a very short window of time. We're actually going to be bringing him on in about 5 minutes. So we're going to move right along today. But joining us, and I'm very excited about this. This is a personal friend of mine, and let me tell you something. This guy is there's really a couple of just a handful of trainers that I really feel like are making a huge impact, and I don't mean just numbers, but a huge impact internally when it comes to the automotive industry. And this guy's one of them.
Yeah.
And he is the president and CEO of the K Method Group, and Curtis Smith is going to be on as well. So what we're doing is we're going to bring these guys on together for about 15 minutes or so. Alan has an appointment. He's going to jump off, and then I'm going to spend a few more minutes with Curtis. We've got a great show. So that's going to happen in about 4 minutes. Just before we do, though, I want to talk to you a little bit, just for a couple of minutes, about passion. And that's really what we blogged about this week. That's what we've talked about, Martin. We kind of put that out there, passion and how it's contagious.
Pass it on.
Pass it on, baby. It's not 2 syllables. Passion is not 2 syllables, but it's 3 syllables. Pass it on. And I'm going to be sending some videos out through the Dealer Hub here this afternoon on passion. And there's part 1 and 2. You don't want to miss these. It's really good. But here's the deal. I want to kind of just segue into bringing these guys on and let you know we're winding into the end of the month. You guys are closing out on Monday. I mean, where did September go? I mean, where'd it go?
Yeah.
I mean, it just flew by. And here's the deal.
Oh, yeah.
Great news. You know the best part of September ending? Rocktober, baby.
Oh.
Rocktober. And so September, September is over, but we're closing out. And I think after talking to a lot of dealers, we've captured momentum. A lot of dealers have captured momentum. And momentum is something that, is stemmed from passion. So going back and looking at it, passion is literally giving everything you have, not just what it takes, but more than what it takes to get the job done. And so passion is the key, Martin, to making sure that you and I are successful. And I really am excited, man, about what's going to happen here on Auto Dealer Live in just a few moments. I have no idea what it's going to be like. I have no idea, other than the fact that there's just going to be some passion that's flowing on this thing. Because when you get Alan,
absolutely.
I'm just going to shut up. I'm talking a lot now because I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to just soak it in, because Alan Ram and Curtis Smith are going to get on the phone, and I don't know, somebody's going to buy something. I mean, I got a feeling that the two of those guys on the phone, it's going to be such just a power pack interject situation that we're just, dealers are going to call up and go, I don't know what it is I'm buying, but I'm buying something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do you think? You like
absolutely. Absolutely. And if you guys out there have any questions, you can direct it at #AutoDealerLive. Tweet us at #AutoDealerLive. And we also have a phone here in the studio.
Whoa, we got a phone?
We can take live callers. Yes,
My
we do.
goodness gracious.
That technology
Moving
is
on up.
moving up, man. It's 813-476-4235. 813-476-4235.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're going to be taking a break here. It's 3:43 Eastern. We're going to be bringing them on at 3:45. So we got a couple more minutes. But here's the deal, man. We got a phone here, as you heard Martin say. Make sure you call us at 813-476-4235 with your questions. make sure you let us know that you're listening. We'd love to hear from you. Listen, if you follow Alan or Curtis, or if you follow us here, or if you're listening and one of the dealers that are listening to this program, we'd like to hear what it is that you'd like to discuss. You can get a hold of us, or you know what, hashtag #AutoDealerLive. If you're on Twitter, listen, don't you go anywhere. Do not leave for 1 second, because we'll be right back with a power-packed 15 minutes just going to blow your mind. This is Dave Villa. You're listening to Auto Dealer Live, and we'll be right back.
IPD does your direct mail become intelligent. We have revolutionized automotive direct mail by implementing today's cutting-edge tracking and response technology. However, to simply stop there is just not smart. Introducing Smart Mail 2.0. With our Smart Mail 2.0, we begin with a phone call the day before your mail is to be delivered to give top-of-mind awareness so that they will be on the lookout for it. The next day, when your mail arrives and is opened, they will see that they have a variety of different ways to contact us. With our smart components, we have set up your mailer to maximize a response. You have the 24/7 toll-free number, personalized URL, texting, select mail, and QR code. We also have our program's Right Track. IPD's Right Track program revolutionized the credit mail industry. We have launched a department that will take every person that isn't able to purchase a vehicle through our Equifax Smart Mail program and assist them in rebuilding, repairing, and restoring their credit. Within a few short weeks, they will be sent back into your dealership with the ability to purchase the vehicle. Also, we have Social Frenzy. IPD's latest smart component is taking automotive direct mail to a whole new level. We prompt every person that responds to like and then share your dealership's Facebook page. That's right, we incentivize your mail recipient to share your page with their friends. We upload a customized video and banner page to your Facebook, and our BDC then drives traffic to your page using the very friends of your potential customers. It begins with the mail responders, and before you know it, becomes a social frenzy, reaching thousands with your page. We also have our Second Win mailer, which takes that letter sent out 2 weeks after the initial mailer hits home to give that person a second chance to come in. IPD has one of the most advanced automotive call centers that specialize in converting calls, emails, and text into credit applications. With all the leads that turn into appointment schedule, that will lead to more ups and a better chance to increase your sales and ROI. Your appointment shows up with this mailer or Second Win offer ready to talk to you about a car. Once the specifics are all finalized, you have a happy and satisfied customer, and so is your month. Smart Mail 2.0, 70% technology, 30% mail created specifically to maximize your ability to sell cars.
Get smart!
Welcome back. This is Dave Villa, and you're listening to Auto Dealer Live. And we are back with you. I told you right before break to not go anywhere because we have a jam-packed next 20 minutes. And on the phone with me, I said this a minute ago, guys, we had such a great time last week. And honestly, I don't think I've had in the last year and a half, I don't think I've had a better time than I did last week. And just like-minded. And I don't know if you feel this way, but when you run into people that are like you, that think like you do, it just really fires you up. And I have two individuals on the phone, and I'm going to introduce them. We have the president and CEO of the K-Method Group, Mr. Curtis Smith, on the phone with us. And Curtis, are you there?
David, I'm here.
Good, man. Awesome. And then also joining us on the phone from last week's show, we had great feedback. A lot of people saying just a wonderful show. Curtis, I think you were one of those people. We have the president of Proactive Training Solutions, Mr. Alan Ram. Alan, are you on with us?
I am.
All right, guys. I know you guys were in the queue, and I don't know if you heard me or not, but I said, we were talking about passion before the break, and I said, there's going to be so much passion going on in this room. I said, somebody's going to buy something. I just got this vision of dealers calling up and saying, I don't know what it is I'm going to buy, but I'm so fired up, I got to buy something. So I don't know how you.
Well, that's one of our.
Go ahead.
Curtis and I were comparing notes, but right before the call, and we are both Marines, so that's going to be the tone of this call.
Oh wow! Well, there you go. Well, well, I tell you what, man. I know I spent a lot of time around Curtis and Alan. I'm starting to get the same impression of you that you guys have one gear, and it's full on. So I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I'm excited, and I want to just throw this out. You guys are a lot alike, and I'm going to fire this off to you, Curtis, and then Alan. I want this to kind of just turn into, if you're okay with it, just to turn into really a kind of conversational piece here, where feel free to kind of comment, and then I'll bounce some questions off, and then I'll pose a question to you. But a question I wanted to kind of ask you, Curtis, and then Alan, just respond to this. What makes your training, guys? What makes your training different from others out there? What makes your training, Curtis, different in your opinion?
Okay. One of the exciting things, David, that you and I have been talking about, and when I listened to Alan's interaction with you last week, one thing I realized was that there is a standard or a need for developing standards that we can use across the industry for what it takes to make somebody excellent at what they do, regardless of the position. And so what we've done with the Kinetic Group is that we've developed a very structured approach for developing learning plans to create selling professionals, business professionals within this industry. And so what makes us unique is that wherein most trainers focus on a specific skill that they're excellent at, our focus is on helping the professional learn the core knowledge, the core competencies, as I like to call them, for what it takes to be good at their position. And then you teach skill, system, or process, not beginning in the actual middle. What do you think, John? How about you?
Well, so the question was, what is it that makes my training different?
Yeah,
that's correct.
I think
the fact that it's actually training. So many things that dealers have bought over the years, and I think I touched on this a little bit last week, are so many things that dealers have bought over the years that have been presented as training never really were. For example, going to a hotel room, to the Marriott, to listen to somebody speak for 8 hours, that's called training. That's promoted as training. Hey, go hear whoever speak at the Hyatt for the next 8 hours, and that's what they call it. Well, that's educational at best. Listening to anybody talk for 8 hours isn't going to make somebody good. That's educational. In order to get good, you have to simulate, you have to practice, you have to role play. And the best analogies that I can use, again, are sports analogies. You want to be a good golfer, you don't just watch golf on TV. You've got to go out and hit bucket after bucket after bucket of balls.
That's right.
And then you have to simulate, but then you've got to be held accountable as well. And, baseball, any sport. You want to look at what works in training? Look at sports. So that's what I think makes my training different. I've got a complete solution featuring education, simulation, and accountability. You can't look at it and say, you know what, I don't see how this would work. It works.
Well, absolutely. One of the questions, let me kind of throw this out there too, Alan. And we got tremendous comment on this, and I want to bring this back up because we didn't have enough time last week to kind of land on this particular part of the subject. But dealers, and I talked to them over this past week, and feedback was, how do I do it? There's such a disconnect. And we touched a little bit on this, but these dealers, I mean, they want to spend the money, which is great. That's why guys like you are in business, and they need to learn this, be taught this. But they have such a lack of confidence, or maybe a disconnect. I don't know what it is, but they don't feel like that they're capable of training their guys. So you said the Marriott, and that's why they continue to keep doing the same, kind of regurgitated type motivational, basically motivating speeches. That rubs off within a couple of days. So I heard from these guys they wanted a little more on that, and I understand that they need to, if they want it bad enough, they need to go to your management by fire. Or they need to get in one of your classes, Curtis. But touch on that a little bit. Help them understand more. That they can do this, and then I'll put it to you after that.
Well, one of the things I think before let me take this for a second. One of the things I think that is the challenge that this industry has is that because we have no real vetting process for bringing individuals into the industry, we have individuals coming to the table with a whole array of different backgrounds. And because when they come to the table after all this information, they come into our dealerships and we try to teach them one way of doing something without fixing the fact that the core knowledge that they have is incapable of giving them the tool they need to do the job. Without being able to fix that first, we run into individuals who are struggling to make sense out of what it is that they're supposed to do every single day. Now, one of the things that Alan talked about was the fact that you have to hit the buckets of balls ongoing in order to become good at what you do. In this space, you have to have a blended learning experience to be able to hit buckets of balls ongoing. And most dealerships don't have access to those resources.
Right.
So I know that Alan has a complete library of content, and it was used to do those types of training regimens. But the managers have to be taught how to actually do that. And that's when dealerships are having trouble. Managers can't really manage, but they can manage the training process. And that's what has to be differentiated.
You touched on that last week, Alan. Why don't you elaborate a little bit on that, because you touched on that.
Absolutely. Hey, Curtis, thank you very much for the advertisement for Management by Fire there.
No problem. It's all good.
Perfect. It's funny, and again, to kind of elaborate a little bit on what Curtis just said there, it's most of the managers in our industry, they aren't managers. They know how to desk deals and they know how to close deals because that's how they were selected to be managers. But they don't know how to manage activity and they don't know how to train. I was called, no kidding, I was called a trainer in the car business for 2-3 years before I ever had a clue of how to train. And again, if I didn't know, chances are most managers don't. And I find it, I don't want to say it's funny, but it's the attitude is it's almost like training is optional in our industry. And I actually had a manager say this, and it just blew my mind when he said this. He said he had just hired a new manager, and this guy's really into training. Mm-hmm. Like, let that sink in for a second. This guy's really into training. How do you say that? What is the alternative? I had another manager, and this guy was really just into incompetence. Why are things? That's good. Why are things that are considered standard in other industries seen as optional in ours? Firefighters, they have to go through training. What if a firefighter didn't want to train? They get kicked out of the battalion. What if an airline pilot said, "You know what? I'm not going to train." They'd kick him out. He or she, they're not going to be an airline pilot anymore. Mm-hmm. But in our business, for whatever reason, it's optional. And when somebody decides to train, that's the exception, and that's not the rule, and that's ridiculous. McDonald's will spend more money training the average 17-year-old how to sling French fries than most car dealerships will spend on a brand new salesperson.
I have a question, Alan.
Go ahead.
No, what I was going to ask was one of the things that I think that Alan and I can probably attribute to. I think first and foremost, the purpose of this discussion today was to help dealerships figure out how to get a handle on training, on the content that you use, or on the resources to build a business. Correct, David? I guess that's right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. So one of the things that I think Alan can relate to is that one of the things I keep hearing a lot about is this thing called boot camp. And I smile when I hear it because unless you've been through the basic training, you won't understand what a boot camp really is and why it actually works. Mm-hmm. In the armed forces, in the Marine Corps specifically, there are 3 phases to training for someone to become a Marine. You can't walk off the street and become one. And in the first phase, you know absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. And in the second phase, you're a little bit better. But by the third phase, you are tightening up on the core content of what it takes to become a Marine, and then your training begins. In this industry, where these dealerships are depending upon these individuals to go from first phase to third phase in 1 day, 1 week, they're wrestling with it because it's not only impossible, but it is the number one reason why turnover ratio is so high, the cost of selling vehicles is so high, and the attrition in the customer base is so high. And so, sir?
Well, I want to ask. Let me break in for this because I got a question I want to pose to Alan here real quick that actually touches on that. What I hear you saying, Curtis, and we've identified this, and it's so true, is that this industry, and Alan said it a second ago, this industry that we serve, this industry that we are in, that we love so much and so dearly. And by the way, Alan, how much more lucrative, how much more money can these salesmen make? We're talking. You just brought up a point that McDonald's. You know, I mean, these guys are paying minimum wage and they're out picketing to make more money, you know, compared to what a car salesman or manager can make in the industry if they do it right. There's not a competition. But why is it that there's such a resistance? Because you said you guys have both identified that we have an issue, we have a problem. It's the industry and why is there such a resistance to continuous training in the automotive industry? And I want to throw that into Alan's lap, and then Curtis, and then I want you to respond to it, and let's keep talking here. But Alan, why is there such a resistance, in your opinion, to continuous training in the automotive industry?
Because it's work. You know, real training, for something to work, it has to resemble work. And again, I don't think that dealers have necessarily a resistance to training. I think that the biggest thing is that they don't understand what real training looks like. And then, you know, that goes back to the you know, they bought a lot of things over the years that have been sold to them as training, and they've never worked. They've never quote unquote stuck. And so, you know, I think that once they understand, I don't think there's a resistance, but there is something of a lack of discipline. Because it's just like going to the gym. Everybody knows what they need. Everybody wants to be in better shape. Everybody wants to look better. Yet not everybody does.
Yeah.
And it takes discipline to wake up every morning and go to the gym and to do it consistently. And I'm not going to go to the gym once and then 6 months from now wonder, hey, how come I'm fat again? I'm going to go to the gym consistently. I understand that you have to do it day after day after day. Training isn't something you did, it's something you do. And again, it's work. And not everybody has the discipline to accomplish that work. And that's why not everyone is excellent.
Curtis?
But the ones that are consistent are.
That's true.
It's funny, and if I could just say one more thing while it's still in my head, you know, dealers have said to me before, well, we want to see if it works. We're going to try it at one of our store to see if it works. Why don't you send one of your kids off to school this year just to see if it works? You know, we'll send the other two off. Well, you know, if it works on that one, we'll send the other two off. It's absolutely ridiculous. The attitude is absolutely ridiculous. And like I said, I think that a big part of it, and this is a very big part of it, the fact that so many people have made so much money in this industry despite the fact that they're not very good. That's what it is. That's
a good point right there. So touch on that for a second. That is a great point. So this industry, they've made a lot of money, but let me ask this then, and kind of throw this towards Curtis. Wouldn't it stand to reason that they could even do more and make more money if this industry yields such a great return, putting this effort that's been put into it? Doesn't it stand to reason that much more can be accomplished if training were?
You know what, David? I think one of the things I want to piggyback on what Alan just said, and then I'll answer your question. The first part is that I think that the reason why there is such a resistance to training is because there's a pathway defined for what training should look like for each position, each role, each skill you're trying to develop, or so forth. So because there's a lack of standard for what it is to be a good salesperson, or what is a salesperson needs to know in order to be successful, there's a whole people go after the celebrity approach to delivering content.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the right way of doing it. That's part one. In addition to that, they not just need a pathway, they need tools and resources. And the tools and resource comes with the content of training content, right? one of the challenges that most dealerships wrestle with is that they may want to train, but in the absence of that standard, where do I go to get the tools for my managers to train? Alan said last week that managers can train if they know how to do it well. Is that correct, Alan?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. And so what happened is that my emphasis is on saying, okay, if we can come up with an agreed-upon standard for what excellence looks like in these roles, then what will happen is that you will be able to eliminate all of the nonsense-type training outfit that exists by making sure that whatever they're providing for the industry lines up with a best practice for the position, skill, or so forth. That's part one. Part number two is this. In the absence of that standard, to your second point, the reason why there's so much money being tossed around is because they're grabbing for straws. And I think if we're going to fix this industry from the perspective that we are going to create an army of professionals who know what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, and how they're supposed to be doing it, then we have something to measure. When a trainer comes to the door and says, here's what I have to offer you, how can you have something for the dealership to measure their material up against so that they can ensure that they are going to deliver the right training for what they're trying to accomplish? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Alan?
Yeah, it's funny, and I think, again, that point that I made a little while ago, and I think that's a valid concern in our industry, is that so many people have made so much money despite the fact that they weren't very good. And I'm telling you, earlier this week I was up in Seattle, and I did seminars. Now, I don't promote those as training. I tell them flat out, this isn't training. This is educational. But it's part of what I do. Obviously I train on everything that people want to be doing when they're out with a customer. But a lot of it is phone skills, handling the inbound sales calls. Right. And I do those mystery shops on a speakerphone. And it is just, in the year 2013, the fact that I can pick up the phone and almost every single call is horrible. They're just terrible. And dealers that are listening to this right now, they know, because they listen to their call monitoring solutions. They listen to CallBright, or whatever call monitoring solution that they have, and they know that their people are bad. I've actually had dealers tell me that the only reason they listen to their sales calls on their call monitoring is because it feels so good when they stop. So in 2013, we still haven't figured out how to properly talk to a customer on the phone. I can pick up the phone in any city in this country, and everybody is terrible. And so we all know how many cars we sold last month as dealers, and this goes back to something Curtis says. We know how many cars we sold last month. How many deals are we missing? How many did we not sell? And I'm telling you, at most dealers, the numbers that they're not selling are as big as what they're selling.
One of the challenges, I think, is one of the things that Alan just brought up, and I think David, you and I have had conversations about, is that, again, the toughest part about being a dealer manager, sales manager today, and I'm going to stop there, is that if you don't have a standard for the type of person that you're looking for, then you're going to continually have, and I don't do phone training. I support those who do it. And what I mean by I don't do phone training is that my emphasis is on the core knowledge that a person needs to know to be successful as a selling professional, period, right? So then therefore, the tool of the phone becomes a byproduct of being a whole person. So Alan is 100% correct when he says you can pick up a phone and call any store, and you'll get that person that makes you want to hang up the phone. However, the solution to that, however, is that you have to go back to the beginning to look at the onboarding process. How do you bring somebody into your business without making sure that before they touch your customers, that the core knowledge that they need to do their jobs are in place? If you don't have that, you're going to continually have that person who can, you'll get that person, as Alan says, when you answer that phone, you hear things that make you want to puke. But that's the reality of our business. We don't have standards, and we have to go back to the beginning and face that first.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to cut in here. I want to throw a question out there because what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing this across the nation, and as the kind of keeping my finger on the pulse of the industry. There's a group of dealers. There's a swell, so to speak, and positive that are ready to make changes. And obviously, I know you guys both believe in glass half full, and that there's some hope here. And obviously, you guys are pouring your heart and soul into it, and you're making a huge impact. There are dealers that are wanting to make changes. And so and they're open because of the fact that these guys spend money. And I think, Alan, you talked about this last week in the Peter principle, the concept of being promoted, from a great salesperson to a less effective sales manager to even a more less effective, general manager, so to speak. So you have a guy that has no business managing, really good salesperson running the dealership. So, but the owners here are, the ones that sometimes have a lot to lose. So these guys are paying attention and they're saying, look, I'm ready to do things right. How can I really make the right investment? And so, so we're talking about this, and we're talking about training. We're talking about why there's a resistance. We're talking about the fact that there's a problem. I want you, Alan, if you would, first speak to these guys that are listening again and say, speak to them. What's their first step? They're ready. They're saying, okay, I get it. I hear you guys. I'm fired up. I want to bring this into my dealership. It's got to start with them, doesn't it, Alan?
Absolutely. It's always, no dealership has ever been successful on mine or any other training despite an effective lack of leadership. And I've got an executive vice president who, and I'm not going to use his name because he always tells me that I'm not a member of the Screen Actors Guild, but I'll tell you, the guy oversees 40 dealerships. Mm-hmm. And years ago, about 8 years ago, he called me up, and he was a referral from someone else.
Right.
And he said, I want you to come into my 2 dealerships. I'm going to come see you, and then we'll decide what to do. But I want 2 dealerships first. We're going to pilot your training, mm-hmm. and I want to see it. So anyway, this guy's an executive vice president, runs 40 stores, and I've had those guys in my meetings before. They're in, they're out, they're on their laptops. I've got a call with some of my GMs. I've got a call with a manufacturer. Mm-hmm. They say that they're there, but they're not there. They're in and out. This guy sat there and didn't move for 8 hours the first day. Wow. The next day he came back and sat for 8 hours in the front of his room, didn't check his phone, didn't check his email. At the end of 2 days, he said, every store in my region is going to have your training. And he's been my number one client now for about the past 7 or 8 years. But nobody can BS this guy. This guy knows my training. He's been through every minute of my training, every minute of my processes. Nobody can BS him and tell them they're doing something when they're not. He knows what they're supposed to be doing. So
well, it
again,
sounds like he bought into it.
It's effective leadership.
Yeah, it was
the best militaries.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Well, I was going to say sounds like he bought into it. This guy, you took a guy who it sounds like, like most Type A, has some ADD, is all over the place, got some things going on and a lot of things. You kept him still for 2 days straight, entrenched, and the result is, hey, every one of my stores are doing this. But what I heard just now, he bought it before he put it into there. You sold that guy. He saw the need for it, and he bought it before he put it into his stores. So that's a key. He's a believer.
It's effective. It's effective leadership. It's again the head coach. A lot of people, the executive at the executive AVP level, executive vice president level, will give you the lip service about, oh yeah, Alan, we support it, and that's very surfacey. But the ones that are the most successful are the ones that are involved. As a coach of a football team. Put it this way, you're the coach. Mm-hmm. You need to know the playbook. You need to know what every one of your players is supposed to be doing.
Sure.
And a lot of these coaches, it's the equivalent of they send their players off to training camp, but then they don't show up. Mm. And so to go back to what is the first step for those that are listening that want to take the first step, 480-659-4665. Give me a call.
Curtis,
operators are standing by.
Curtis, I think Curtis, your number might be different. I don't know, but you guys are. It's amazing because it's like listening to two like-minded individuals here. But Curtis, as we're getting ready to I know we're winding this thing down. I know we've been on for a while. And I know you guys are busy as heck, and I appreciate you coming on. But I just kind of pick between, and I'm trying to kind of referee this thing here and pull pieces out to keep us going. But Alan said something last week about it, and he just said it again. That, and I got it reading between the lines. The best coaches aren't always the best players. We talked about that last week, and I think back to him. I'm a Bucks fan, unfortunately at this point, but I've been for life, and I remember John Gruden, and he's obviously Monday Night Football now, and I like him. I like that fiery style. I like Greg Schiano, and I'm a huge Vince Lombardi fan, Alan, but going back to like a John Gruden, I mean, this guy's little. And his hands were too small to play quarterback really effectively in the NFL. He was a quarterback in college for I can't remember if it was Tulsa or something like that. But bottom line is, this guy's a genius as a coach, but he wasn't the most effective player. So, Curtis, I mean, kind of wrapping this thing and bringing it home, you've got guys that are listening right now that are owners that have money. Some of these guys, maybe haven't spent a day in the car business. Others may be phenomenal car guys. But some of them are looking for the answers, and they're willing to do what it takes. They got the money, and they have the business knowledge, but they're not the guys that were in the huddle. They're not the guys, the Peyton Mannings, grabbing the face mask of the players going, come on, we can do this. They're not that. They're a coach. So speak to these guys, Curtis, and I want you to take a minute and tell them, why, as a coach, they need to make sure their players are equipped, and it starts with them buying into it. Talk to them for a second, and then we're going to bring this thing home in a minute.
All right, perfect. So I think the first thing I need to do is something called, you have to learn how to manage the process instead of managing the actual person. And what I mean by that is that there's a process for doing everything, there's a recipe for doing everything. I mean, I've always been asked what is K-Method, and I always say K-Method consists of a series of recipes of how to do something very well. Business development strategies, customer relationship management strategies, and how to manage the activities that they need to engage in to do whatever is a task is that they need in order to do it actually well. To bring training into a business, you have to have the recipe for what you're trying to accomplish. You can't just ache and then say, I hurt, so I need training. And that's the reactive approach that everyone engages in. They wait till they hurt, then they call for training. What you've been just talking about, what Alan has been talking about, is a need to be proactive from the perspective that if we're going to be excellent...
Did you say a need for proactive? Because Alan agrees with you there, right, Alan?
Yeah. Well, hey, Curtis, feel free to give my phone number and repeat that number.
Curtis,
you know what happened? Go ahead, sir.
Did you say? You sound like you said a need for proactive, because that is the name of Alan's company. I think you said a need to be proactive.
Yeah,
that could have been construed as acne medicine too. So,
well, here's the deal. There's a need to be proactive when it comes to looking at everything that we need as a business in order to be successful. You can't wait till you have a problem, then try to fix it. Right. And that's what we've been doing as an industry across the board. And so to bring this thing to a close, I think the first thing that any business has to come to the actual conclusion is that we are going to be excellent and sustain a high level of performance. So therefore, what is it that we need to know how to do? And I think by looking at the different strategies that myself, Alan, you have great guys that get a part of this team that have different skill sets they bring to the table. I call it the 3 phases of excellence. The first phase being the core knowledge. What do my people need to know to do their jobs well? And then what are the processes and actual strategy? And then who has the best fuel for the actual fire? And if you can package that up into a comprehensive solution, I don't know anyone on the planet who has all the elements, but what I can tell you is that there is a need for leaders to step away from the table and to think through what they're trying to accomplish. Then engage us and have a conversation about what piece of the puzzle will you fill or fit, and then execute.
Man, I tell you what, you guys are firing me up. If you're listening out there, dealers, listening, you're like the guy that's sitting in Alan's class, and you're kind of putting your phone down and you're engaged. But I'm telling you, at this point, you need to engage by picking up the phone and doing something, because if you're sitting there and the thought has crossed your mind, and I'll put a plug in for both of you guys, because if the thoughts crossed your mind, like, you know what, man, I could use that, or wow, I've done that, or you know what, that's where we're at, then don't think about it anymore. Because the bottom line is, if you're at a place, and I would say if you're willing to face that, and you're ready to make a change, then I'm going to tell you something. This can help you. And so I want to say this. I want to give you guys closing remarks, and I'll start. Curtis, take a minute, if you would, just give a closing remark, and then Alan, I'm going to toss it over to you to do a closing remark, and then we'll be finished with the show here. But Curtis, take a minute, and then just give a closing remark, and then I'll pass it on to Alan here.
I will say to you that the industry is predicting that 2014 is going to be one of the most record-breaking sales years for industry. And the question I want to drop in every leader's lap is, are you positioned to take advantage of that? Are you going to get your fair share? And the reality is that in most cases, most businesses are not positioned for it. Your team doesn't know how to execute your strategies, or they don't have access to the content to reinforce the skill set they need to excel. I will say to you that there is a need for us to just look at what we're trying to accomplish, and as a leader, more importantly, as a business owner, my own self, knowing that I have to go out and find the answers. This forum, if you spend time with David Villa, in this forum, in the tools he's providing, I think you'll get more from your business in 2014, and I'll be glad to serve you if I could. Alan?
Oh, no, wonderful. I agree, and really, it's and again, and we've talked about this extensively over the past 2 weeks. And if there really is for the dealers that are really looking for something different, for a change, give me a call. I'd love to have a conversation. Not about any. We can have a conversation about what it would take to change your people's behavior at your dealership. And there's no one thing that works for everyone, right. But we can explore and find a solution. So any dealers that are really looking to make a change, I'm thrilled to talk to them myself.
Awesome.
And I appreciate this opportunity to be on here, especially with another. You don't call them former Marines. I've got a friend of mine that's in the Navy. He calls me a recovering Marine.
That's awesome. So you guys are both looking for a few good men or women here that are ready to step up to the plate and invest into the future of their dealership. And I'll leave it at that, guys. I know. Again, you're busy, and we're starting to wind down and get ready to close the month out here. Man, I greatly appreciate you guys being on the show. And real quick, if you would, you guys give your contact information. You can do it better and faster than I would. Curtis, your website and your best way to reach you.
KMethod.com, KMETHOD.com. And my personal cell would be 630-777-1616, 630-777-1616. I will look forward to speaking to any of you guys.
Awesome. And Alan, I know what's your contact information? The best way somebody wants to reach out to Proactive Training Solutions.
Here in lovely Scottsdale, Arizona, It's proactivetrainingsolutions.com. All one word, proactivetrainingsolutions.com. And phone number is 480-659-4665. And love to talk to anyone.
Awesome. And you guys are both on Twitter. And I know, Curtis, you're at The K Method, and Alan, you're at The Alan Ram, correct?
Absolutely. I look forward to your tweets and retweets, and you're awesome. I follow you on Twitter as well.
All right, thank you guys. Well, man, I do appreciate you guys coming on, and look forward to a great fourth quarter here. And you guys have a wonderful weekend, and look forward to talking to you guys soon.
Take care, guys. Thank you very much. Hey, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, sir. Talk to you soon.
You heard it here. That was Alan Ram and Curtis Smith from the K Method Group and Proactive Training Solutions. Listen, hashtag Auto Dealer Live. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think about the show. We want to. We'd love to hear your questions, your comments. Maybe you got some Army guys and some Navy guys out there and some Air Force guys out there that are going to want to comment on that. But seriously, we'd love to hear it. If you're interested in being a guest on Auto Dealer Live, we would love to talk to you about that. We're booked out. I do want to make one announcement here as we are gearing up for October 31st. I'm saying it now because I am stoked. I'll say that again. I'm stoked about this show. You want to make sure mark your calendars now because it's going to be on fire. We have the one and the only Grant Cardone that is going to be with us for October 31st. The one and only Grant Cardone is going to be here live on Auto Dealer Live. We've got some dealer principals that are going to be joining us and fielding some questions to Grant. So I'm excited about that. The one and only Grant Cardone is going to be here on Auto Dealer Live October 31st. Thursday. Mark your calendars. Listen, we want to hear from you. 813-476-4235, hashtag Auto Dealer Live. You've been listening to Auto Dealer Live. This is David Villa. And until next week, have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you there.